What is up? This is the second week in a row that I'm going to be doing this in the car. Unfortunately, it is not a Sunday, and it actually happens to be a Wednesday today, so I'm a little bit late in my recording, so I have a little bit more notes than previously indicated, but I'm excited to recap. This week has probably been the best week that I've had, or this last week was the best week that I've had progress-wise. I think I rated it at 3.8 out of 10, and what made it 1.5 basically better than previous weeks in my average is a couple things. So the biggest thing is that I made a lot of progress on the social front. And by the social front, friends and relationships, girls, I guess. I approached around 10 different girls with, I guess I got 2 or 3 different numbers or like information. I really only followed up with one girl, and yeah, I felt really good about doing it. You know, I think there's a lot to be said about just doing the motion versus actually succeeding. I think a lot of things, I guess it's the age-old question of, is it the journey along the way that matters or reaching the destination, right? And I think for me, eventually it's going to be reaching the destination because that means finding a girlfriend and getting married and having kids, blah, 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 living the rest of our lives together. But while I'm still just trying to find the girl, I think it really is about repetition. It is about feeling confident in myself and who I am as a person. Because I do think girls can tell when you're nervous. I don't think there's anything wrong with being nervous, but when you're unconfident, I think even if you're nervous, you should still have confidence in yourself. I had this good analogy thrown to me about how if, let's say I was giving away something. If I was giving away $1 million, would I be nervous to approach somebody to be like, hey, here's $1 million? I wouldn't be nervous, right? And so you kind of got to put yourself in that same mindset of I'm that $1 million, and I shouldn't be nervous to give myself away. And not give myself away, right? I'm not a fucking charity case, but basically I shouldn't be nervous to approach girls with $1 million, which I am. I'm a $1 million guy. So, sorry, one second, I gotta make a move here. But yeah, I'm a $1 million guy, so I shouldn't be nervous to approach girls. And I think my biggest strategy, actually, this thing I learned, was that I should approach and ask for. Sorry, I'm making a U-turn. And so what made this week so good is that I approached around 10 girls this week, and I had varying levels of success. But I think the girls that I did approach ended up being very friendly, and they recognize that I'm out on a limb, right? Because I'm coming to talk to them. It's not normal. I think if it was normal, then it would be more accepted, but it's not normal. And honestly, it should be more normalized. But putting yourself on the limb out there, they respect that. Also, approaching them with confidence, they respect that. Even if you are nervous, even if I'll admit sometimes I did fumble over my words a little bit, but I think that sort of sincerity is what they appreciate, right? Nowadays, everything is so curated through text, and everything is perfectly placed. Every single thing you say is perfectly punctuated, and you have emojis to describe the way you're looking, the way you're feeling, right? And it's just too much. Personally, I'm not a huge texter. I don't really like texting, and so I gotta start approaching more girls, and I think I did that this week. I was actually really inspired because I watched this one guy's video. It was actually a reaction from Los Polos and his dad, or Los, I forgot what his full name is. I don't really watch him as a clip. But he was reacting to this guy approaching 100 girls and asking them out. And I think this guy, I don't know what his end goal was, because he would go up to groups of like 4 girls and ask out all 4 of them. But I was like, why can't I do that? And he showed what he looked like. And respectfully, that dude's way more clapped than I am. And if he can ask out 100 girls and have confidence to do it, then I can do it too, right? And it ended up taking him 2 videos for him to finally get a yes. But it was like on the 183rd girl that he asked, she finally said yes to him. And if that's what it had taken for me to get a yes from a girl, then that's what it would have to take. But it didn't. Luckily, I'm not that clapped. But that's just the sort of, I feel like there's a lot more people with conviction, or not even conviction, but just with the balls to go do it, that are not as attractive to you. But it really isn't about what you ask for nowadays. Or sorry, it isn't about what you deserve nowadays. It's about what you ask for, right? If I ask for a girl's number, then at least I had a chance at getting it. If I never ask her, if I never talk to her, then I don't know if I had a chance. And just the way that I live my life, knowing that I had a chance, and knowing that either she rejected me or she, I guess, accepted me, is a lot better of an outcome than the unknown, right? I'd rather know than not know. And so I started living my life like that. And so here's another tip that I've kind of learned in those 10 asks that I did last week. And I think it really depends on the situation. But basically, never ask for a girl's Instagram, right? Instagram is so easy to ignore. I think it's also less intrusive, so it's so easy for them just to say yes and then not follow you back, blah, blah, blah. Right? Ask for the number, at least. And what I've taken it to is ask for a date. If you're really interested in this girl, then you want to take her out on a date anyway, right? Isn't that the end goal of getting the number, is to take her out on a date? And so ask for the date. It does twofold, right? First, you're going to get the number anyway. If you ask a girl on a date, she's going to have to give you her number to make plans to go out. Second, asking for a date is one more step past the number, and why that's good is because there's a lot of girls, kind of with Instagram too, they'll just give you their information and then never respond to you. They'll just ghost you, right? And I'm sure that can still happen if you ask a girl out on a date, but it's going to weed out those girls that aren't really serious about you, right? If they're really serious about you, then they're willing to give you their number, they're willing to go out on a date with you. But it's almost like a concentric circle where the group of girls that are willing to go on a date with you is going to be smaller than the group of girls that are willing to give you their number, and then that's going to be smaller than the group of girls that's willing to give you their Instagram. Right? And so don't be afraid to ask a girl out on a date without having talked to her, because if they're really interested, they would say yes. And maybe they would say, oh no, I want to get to know you better, but at least they're interested at that point, right? And at least it shows that you got some huevos on you, that you're willing to ask a girl to do that. And I truly believe girls respect that, and honestly kind of admire a guy that's willing to do it. And let me also clarify, none of these were done when I was going out to get drinks. I don't really drink, but none of these were like in a party kind of setting. I think that's also a whole different mentality when approaching women. Personally, I'm not trying to find my wife on the street, of some basically wife on the street drunk, because I don't think that's the type of girl that is going to be a good mother to my children. And so I'm doing this just throughout everyday life, right? And I think girls are a lot more susceptible to a gentleman that's not out partying as well, because they want their husband blacked out drunk on a weekend at a party, basically willing to smash a 3. I don't think so. If I was a girl, I wouldn't want that. And so that was one reason, a major reason why I think I had so much improvement this week, because I really improved on that front. I also consider to continue to improve my fitness. I redid my measurements, and so I'll read them out to you. In October 29th at 11:24 p.m., I weighed 204.8 pounds. My arms were 15.5. These are all inches. 15.5. My calves were 15.75. My neck was 15.5. My chest was 44. My waist was 33.5, and my forearms were 13.5. So now, on February 5th, 2025, or 2026, wow, I'm actually in the year 2026. Yeah, update my document. But now in 2026, at 11:26 p.m., I was 204.5 pounds, so I was only like 0.3 pounds less. Or I was actually, 204.5. I was only 0.3 pounds less. My arms were 15.5. My neck was 15.5, so they haven't changed. My calves were 16, so they've increased by a quarter inch. My forearms were 13.25. They've decreased by a quarter inch. My waist was 32, and my chest was 42. So my waist and chest basically both lost around 2 inches, which I think makes sense because I've been losing a lot of fat. But it shows that I'm continuing to keep my muscles, which I think is really good, right? And my waist being back down to 32 is also really good. I'm really happy about that because I was honestly scaling out of some of my pants, and that's never a good feeling when you're like, oh, wow, I can't wear my pants anymore because they're too tight. I think that's a good motivation to say, hey, Fatso, get back in the gym. But so it's been a great week. I've shown tremendous amount of progress fitness-wise, tremendous amount of progress socially, work-wise. I'm doing really good as well. I'm getting into groups that I wasn't a part of. I'm giving presentations for other groups, and I'm their point of contact. And I think those are all really great things. When other people start to depend on you, that means that you're wanted and that you're valuable, you know. And so it's really good. I do want to say this. So I did get a haircut. I don't know how well it's coming through on the camera, but I would say it's honestly a confidence boost. I've never had my hair this way, and I'm sure many people watching don't really care, and honestly can't really tell. But the main difference is that everything's a little bit longer, and I'm actually not even side parting anymore on the side. It's more just kind of like a swoosh over. And I actually got this compliment, and I guess it kind of sounds a little hypocritical, but this was last Saturday night. I was just walking the streets because I did want to get some more steady state cardio and just walk around. And I guess if I had run into somebody we're talking to, I would have done it. But I didn't end up talking to anybody. But I was walking around the streets, and this dude, he put his hand out to dap me, and I was like, oh, what's up, dude? I dapped him up. He actually was standing next to this girl. I thought it was kind of hot, but I dapped him up, and he was like, yo, dude, have a good night, or whatever. He's kind of drunk. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. You too, have a good one. And I walked off, and then I heard him telling the other people he was with. He was like, I don't know how he got his hair like that, but that looks really good. And I'm not gay. There's nothing wrong with being gay, but I honestly, I felt really good after that compliment. And I guess it's kind of a tangent, but I think people need to give out more compliments nowadays. Genuine compliments, don't just make up stuff. But I felt really good. I was like, I do think there's a certain level of aura, a certain level of confidence boost that I've gotten with this new hairstyle. I think I am still just mastering it. Honestly, every day I look at myself and I'm like, damn, you're sexy. But it's just continuing to compile and compile. I think as I have these memories, as I have these kind of snapshots into my life, I'll be able to see the progress. It's almost like I'm graphing my life out right now, and every week I'm just seeing that I'm continuing to increase, and the rate that I'm increasing at is getting faster and faster. So life was really good this last week, and I'm hoping to. It is Wednesday. I guess the one category that I've gotten better in this week so far is probably bowling. I'm a big bowler. I don't know how that really helps out the rest of my life, but I did get better in bowling this kind of first half. So now let's split off from the weekly thoughts here. I was watching but I was watching Marco Pierre White, who was Gordon Ramsay's kind of mentor in his early stages, and it was really interesting. Marco Pierre White, he was this really intense dude. I just think the kitchen style that he grew up in, that he learned under, was just really intense. So he was also intense himself, and so he would be really hard on these people. But then after he got like 2 or 3 Michelin stars, he just realized once he reached the top, he was still unsatisfied. He wasn't fulfilled with his life, and so he left it all behind. He closed his restaurant, left it, and then eventually he came back around like 10, 15 years later to cooking, but he kind of lost his passion for it. But that really wasn't the main reason why I want to talk about him. I do think there's a lot of life lessons we learned from his life. For example, the mentality towards growing in life versus feeling fulfilled in life are a little bit different, because I think there's a certain aspect of like unsatiable hunger to continue to improve, and I don't think that hunger can ever be fulfilled, right? Unless you change your perspective on life, and then it'll change and be fulfilled. Oh my God, bro, I'm gonna change lanes here. What the hell? Right, but he had 2 really good quotes, and he was at European MasterChef, and so these were what these quotes came from. So one of them was, "Perfection is a lot of little things done well." Right? You gotta think about that. Perfection is a lot of little things done well. I think when people really look at perfection, like if you look at any sort of art, they're like, wow, that's perfect. And it's really every single stroke, every single color. It's really the minute details that add up as a whole to make something great. You don't have anything that's great as a lump sum. And I think a lot of people, including myself, look at things very big picture. I'm a big picture type of guy. I'm not really great at details, but it's in those details that you find greatness. And that's what I'm starting to realize is I need to be, oh, it's because this dude's like stopped up here. Oh man, I'm glad I got out of this lane. Oh wow, that was actually a really good move by myself. It's in these little details that greatness is produced. This is a complete tangent as well, but I just switched to Obsidian for my note taking, and I think note taking in itself is a huge benefit, but finding a system that works for you is really what matters. And it doesn't really matter about how you do it, but just as long as you find a system that works for you, then that can help you build up. And another thing, it's like nobody would know history if we didn't have a written version of it. Like eventually it'll be forgotten, eventually minute details will be lost, but it's in those little details that you can write down that your brain doesn't remember, those bigger pictures, that are actually really important in the future. And I guess, yeah, that's just what I believe in. And then his second quote is, what is it? Marco Pierre White told this contestant, he goes, your, I don't know, souffle, some sort of dish, your souffle is better than I could have made it at your age. And I was like, wow, this dude's got some major ego on him, right? Because first of all, and then that person took it as a compliment, because of course he's a great, right? But as a great, you're comparing them to yourself, and if you're saying they're better than you, then that just basically means that they're great, but at the same time you're complimenting yourself, because everyone recognizes that you're great, right? You're this powerhouse, but you're saying that they're better than at your age. That doesn't necessarily mean they're better than you right now either, right? Because that means that because you wouldn't have flatlined at that point in your life, hopefully not. So I think that was just a really interesting way to give somebody a compliment, basically to say, you were better than me at your age, or you're better than me at your age. Is an interesting way to compliment somebody. So another quote from Socrates, and this kind of comes into everything that I've been saying, is that he said, the unexamined life is not worth living, right? So if you don't reflect, oh my gosh, this dude did not accelerate at all. If you don't reflect on your life, if you don't look back at it, then you're kind of running around with your head cut off, right? You're not really growing because you don't have you don't have anything to say, hey, I grew from this. Oh my God, bro, this is actually an insane amount of traffic right now. Oh my gosh. One second, I gotta focus up. This is an insane amount. They're literally not even moving, and I need to cut in here, so I'm trying to figure out where I can cut in. All right, I got it. The unexamined life is not worth living, right? If you don't reflect, oh my gosh, if you don't reflect on your past mistakes, even your past success, then how are you ever going to recreate it, or how are you ever going to learn from the experience, right? I personally don't think that people reflect enough. I think that's why therapy is so good, because therapy allows that person to talk with someone else and get another perspective on their life that's happened, right? I don't think people live too much in the moment, and I think living in the moment is, oh my God, I bit my tongue. I think living in the moment is very important, but also reflecting on that moment and planning for that moment are just as important, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I guess I need to do it more. This is kind of a reminder for myself, but also as a way to live life. To life max, you really have to learn from your mistakes and learn from your success. This is another thing that I really thought was interesting, and it's that context creates definition. And what do I mean by that, right? You can, there's a ton of examples. I think this is an example that I come up with. But like, let's see, like modern art. I'm not a huge fan of modern art. Honestly, I don't see the value in modern art. But if I saw a modern art painting in the Louvre, I would say that, wow, this painting is probably a couple $1 million. It's probably pretty expensive, right? It's probably done at a very high level. If I saw that same painting in the trash, I would have thought that this is probably some student doing the art. I would have thought some bum, right? So it really depends on the context that something is held in, that you kind of, I think, subconsciously create this, I guess, like bandwidth of variability of how important it is. It's like, even if you look at a sentence, right? And definitions of a word can change depending on the context of the sentence. And even situations in life, sentences themselves can change definitions depending on the context of which they're said. And maybe this is a very obvious thing, but I had just never thought about that. The context of something creates the definition, or creates the perspective that we think about it in. This is another interesting thing. I wrote, options limit creativity, right? And you're like, what? Right? Like, if you have more options, then you should have more things at your fingertips. You should be able to be as creative as you like, right? But like, let's say if I'm doing a painting, let's go back to art. If I'm doing a painting and all I had were blue and black as my colors, then for the artist to create something magnificent out of that limitation is what creates greatness. You know, if you don't have limitations in your life, if you don't really have struggle, then you don't become great, because life's too easy. If everything's at your fingertips, then there's no need to problem solve. There's no boundaries for you to get over, to break through. And so it's these limitations that we put on ourselves, it's these time constraints that we put on ourselves that create the drive, create the motivation, and create the person, create the human being. And so I don't want to I don't think anyone wants to cage themselves and put limitations on themselves, but I do think there's an idea in goal setting where you need to put a timeline on it. I think that's an easy limitation, a very standard limitation that not a lot of people do. And I'm at fault for this as well. I guess it kind of also goes back to me wanting to do my 30-day challenges, my 60-day challenges, my 45, whatever amount of time frame. But that's a limitation, right? Or I just feel like we need to start putting more maybe constants in our life, like we're almost a science experiment, but we need to start putting more rules in our life to then create success, to create greatness out of it. And there's a lot there to, I think, to unpack. So this is another really interesting topic. When a bird lands on a branch, do you think the bird trusts that the branch won't break? Or do you think the bird trusts its wings to fly away if the branch does break? Where is the trust held in? My opinion, the bird puts his trust in himself. He doesn't put it in trust in that the branch won't break on him. Oh my gosh, bro. The bird puts his trust in his ability to fly, right? And I think that analogy needs to be applied to a lot of aspects of my life, where I guess it's not distrust of things, because he still lands on it because he wants to rest, he trusts it. But really, the safety net is yourself, is you knowing that you're going to be able to do what it takes to survive. And so don't be afraid. I guess I don't think I live my life in fear. I think I had talked about that a lot, about how negative emotions are what drives my life. And it's not that I'm distrustful. Maybe fear and distrust are kind of similar, maybe kind of not. It's not that I'm afraid of trusting people and trusting different, like, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I do enjoy good theory, but I'm not super, I guess, negative or pessimistic towards life. And I think that's the right mentality to have, right? I should be able to, I have trust in myself to be able to solve the problem. So I put myself in situations where I might be out on a limb, where I'm pushing myself because I know I'm going to be able to clutch up. This was another kind of interesting thing before I start getting to just some more fun facts. But realistically, in the concept of girls, what does Brad Pitt, or I guess let me switch it the other way. What do I have that Brad Pitt doesn't have? Right? Like, and I guess the answer is obviously no, nothing. Right? There's nothing that I have that Brad Pitt doesn't have or can't have. Right? And that's a little bit sad to think about. Right? If Brad Pitt's probably more attractive than me. I guess I'm younger than him. That's the one thing, I got youth on him. But he has more money than me, more influence than me. Probably he's dated hotter girls than me. He's in better social circles than I am. He has more options in life than I do. Right? Like, what does he have? Like, what does he have that I don't have? And so then why do I think I get to deserve the things that he has? Right? Like, why do I think I deserve, I don't know, this is kind of an out there example, but like, why do I feel like, I don't think I do, and I kind of don't want to, but like, why do I deserve to date Jennifer Aniston if I'm not nearly the person that Brad Pitt is? And I shouldn't. So I think it's kind of an example of unrealistic goal setting. I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date the supermodel, or oh yeah, even if like in a basketball game, if I haven't worked as hard as Michael Jordan, why do I deserve to think I'm as great as Michael Jordan? I shouldn't. And I think don't choose the A-level people, but let's start looking at B-level people, right? Like, let me think of a good B person. Like, oh my God, I guess B people are hard to think about, but they probably could take my girl too. And they probably have more options in life than I do too. And so why do I think I deserve to be in this B echelon? And then it begins, why do I deserve to be in the C? Until eventually I reach a tier where I'm like, okay, I'm with my peers. I want to be at a better level. So let me think what it takes to get to that better level. Right? I guess like honestly, I guess streamers are kind of getting up there to like A tier now, depending on the streamer. But like, let's take this guy's Toast, for example. This guy's Toast has a lot more success in life than I do. But he's not like 100 millionaire probably. I don't know how much money he has, but I don't think he's 100 millionaire. So I shouldn't expect to be able to have the opportunities that he has. I shouldn't like, This traffic driving is crazy. But I shouldn't expect myself to be able to achieve, to have access, maybe not achieve, to have access to the things that Disguised Toast has access to, right? And I should understand that's not realistic. Can I still want it? Can I still get it eventually? Yes. But with currently how I am, it's not realistic. And I think there's a version of realism and there's a version of optimism that everyone needs to have. All right, now let's talk some fun facts, kind of cool ideas throughout the week. So I've been really getting into tech. Well, I guess this was my goal as I stated, but I've been getting more information about tech, different things happening in the industry, different things. So I was thinking about this, how Spotify is starting to grow a monopoly. I'd probably say they're like 70 to 80% of the market. You have YouTube Music and you have Apple Music as well, but most people listen on Spotify, right? And it really is interesting because the Spotify CEO just stepped down and he considers Spotify a tech company versus like a music company. And it's kind of interesting. I think I would still consider Spotify as a music company, as like an audio company. I guess I don't make audio, but as like an audio provider company. But they really are starting to expand out to podcasts, and they have some video formatting. They have different, sorts of media other than just music nowadays. And I think it's really interesting that maybe in the next couple of years they're going to start competing with YouTube, right? YouTube is basically Spotify with video, right? YouTube has all the audio, same audio stuff that Spotify does, except for they have a bunch of content creators that make videos attached to their stuff instead of just music. And so I think Spotify is going to start to gain a monopoly on the music industry, and then eventually they're going to have to continue to expand. They're going to have to start competing with YouTube for market space, which I don't know how it's going to go, but that's going to be really interesting. Another thing that I feel like has kind of lost a lot of people, and maybe I'm just not tapped into that community, but is the Kindle community. Like a lot of people, about 10 years ago, I feel like everyone had a Kindle. Everyone was reading on their phone, blah, blah, blah. But nowadays, I think people are starting to move back to actually liking books, or they just don't read as much. And I guess book reading, I haven't really read a book in a while, even though I do enjoy reading. I think book reading is starting to be, or maybe it's just an age thing. Maybe you don't read as many books. I guess you probably don't read as many books as you get older. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I guess it's also really interesting when you have AI to synthesize information for you, to summarize information. You don't really need to read everything anymore. And I guess that's kind of like a blind trust of AI to be able to point out or highlight the key points. So that's kind of interesting. Google just came out with this super realistic 3D environment. It's supposed to be used for training AI models in like realism world scenarios. It also has some gaming, I guess, benefits, but it really inspired me to continue, and I guess maybe, I'm not gonna gatekeep anymore, but I really wanna make a D&D, online D&D game that's run by an AI model to generate stories. I think that would be really, really cool. It's almost like Minecraft, but a little bit more story-based, where you can, like, AI will just generate random things, and if you interact with them and whatever, then that'll spark later storylines in your journey. I think that would be a really interesting gaming concept. I don't know why this guy just came over to my lane. This other thing, this is really interesting. There's a website called Rent a Human now, and basically, it's like if you want to have lawn work done, you can ask AI, hey AI, can I get somebody to come do my lawn? And that AI agent will go to this Rent a Human website, and if you apply to be like a worker for them, then that basically that AI agent becomes your boss. Like that would be really interesting if we start living in a world where humans are employed by AI. I don't know what that would even look like, honestly. Because there's no way an AI being could run its own company. You'd still have to have a human at the helm. So I don't know. Yeah, that's really interesting. Another thing was I was listening to this one tech podcast, and they predicted that Apple is going to come out with a foldable phone this year. And I think that would be really interesting. I think it's already been proven Apple's way behind in technology and in features compared to the rest of the market, but it's because they have their own ecosystem that they're still wanted. I think also in the US, it's like a disproportional amount of people have Apple compared to the world. But I'm really debating whether or not, do I get in this right lane? I don't know, maybe. This guy on this left, this Tesla's not driving really consistent. It's kind of weird. He keeps like speeding up and then stopping. But yeah, so Apple, but there's another thing is the EU has started putting a lot more regulations. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh shoot. The EU has started to apply a lot more regulations on Apple to start to tear down some of their walls that make their ecosystem. So for example, I'm sure I didn't even know about this, but there's now AirDrop is accessible for non-Apple phones. So I could AirDrop to an Apple phone can AirDrop to me. And that's like a huge feature that only Apple had for the longest time, right? And so there's a bunch of other things, like Apple has loosened up on their SMS rules about texting. You now can like reply to Apple people. There's a bunch of different things that Apple is kind of falling behind on because they're not up to date with the rest of the people. And then now their features that are exclusive are being opened up to the other companies. And so I think Apple's about to have a huge fall in these next couple of years. It already, as a tech company, in my opinion, is falling behind. Siri, I think, was a great idea at the time, but Siri is so outdated compared to other kind of chat models. So honestly, I guess short Apple if you got the balls to do it. I'm probably not going to do it, but short Apple. This is another solution. So there's been a lot of AI slop coming out nowadays. There's like I forgot, like there's something called like SoundSeed by TikTok, ByteDance, or it's called like Seed Dance, I think. And they're coming out with AI videos, a lot of AI imagery. And the biggest issue is like how do we keep track of what images are AI, what images are real? And this one person proposed a solution of reintroducing the blockchain to AI imagery. Right? Because like a lot of blockchain stuff was used for NFTs, which kind of was a scam, a lot of pump and dump. And the whole idea of blockchain was kind of pushed away with that. But if you're able to, but the blockchain itself is a really good concept of keeping track of, I guess, keeping cookies of where this image has been, how it was generated, whose hands it was in, blah, blah, blah. That I think AI imagery would do really well with it. Because then we would be able to know and confirm that this image was AI. Because we have a lot of watermarks, but watermarks can be edited out. We have a lot of metadata, but metadata can be changed. But you can't really change a blockchain because it's an agreement between multiple systems that this is the point of origin, right? This is the path. I guess it's called the ledger, right? The ledger keeps track of where this information has been. And so I think it is a really good solution to AI imagery. And the last kind of thing that I have to talk about is there's this new application online called Gizmo, which allows you as a non-programmer to create applications, to create like kind of fun games. And I think it's kind of a cool idea. I need to play around with it more. I haven't really touched it, but I do want to look at that, and I'd encourage anyone watching to play around with Gizmo as well. So that's that's the conclusion of my week. All the thoughts that I had, all the interesting ones at least. And I hope you're all having a great week. Have a great night, great afternoon, and a great morning wherever you are. Peace.
I think it's the same.
It's
Yo.
about to hit Dave's. This shit's gonna hit.
About to hit today's trip.
I think the days.